In this lecture, we're going to be talking about Chapter 4, which is all about energy and metabolism. And so sort of the first question I have for you is, where did this hummingbird get all of this energy from that it's using to fly around and drink this nectar or sugar water or whatever happens to be in this bird feeder? Oddly enough, the answer to that question is the bird got that energy from the sun, ultimately. So the sun strikes Earth, and a lot of the sun's energy is just released as heat, which we're going to talk about in a little bit when we start talking about the laws of thermodynamics. But some of that energy goes into producers. It goes into plants. Those plants take that energy and they convert it into sugars. And we're going to be discussing this idea shortly as well. But energy from the sun goes into plants, which convert it into sugars. And then animals like you or I or that hummingbird eat those plants. Or sometimes we eat other animals who have eaten those plants. And that's where we get our energy from. And regardless of whether or not we eat plants or whether we eat animals, the energy ultimately came from our friend, the sun. If we continue following this little metabolic path down, ultimately plants and animals will die, and we will be consumed by decomposers, fungi, bacteria, and worms, and we will ultimately be converted back into heat, which is, again, something we're going to talk about later, the idea of entropy. But the point of all this is that our energy source on this planet is ultimately always the sun. So there are two types of metabolism that we are going to discuss. There is anabolism, which is building a molecule, and there is catabolism, which is breaking down a molecule, or an anabolic pathway and a catabolic pathway. Okay, so here we are taking molecules and energy and we are building something larger. Here we are taking molecules and we are breaking them down and releasing energy. So a great example of anabolism, the most common one, is photosynthesis. Here we are taking carbon dioxide and water and building C6H12O6, which is glucose, and oxygen. So you're taking carbon dioxide and water and you are building glucose and oxygen. This 2 should have been little, but I messed up. So this is anabolism, right? We are taking smaller molecules and putting them together to build larger molecules. Here is a great example, one of the most common examples going on of catabolism. This is happening in your cells all of the time. It's the exact opposite of photosynthesis. You are taking sugar, glucose, C6H12O6, the same one that we built here. Taking this and oxygen, and you are using that to produce CO2, water, and ATP, and energy. Okay, but again, the point of this is catabolism is breaking things down, whereas anabolism or anabolic metabolism is building things up. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about transformations of energy. We're going to talk about chemical, kinetic, and potential energy.